Listen, Lucas, is there any advice that you'd give to partners? It sounds like we've wrapped and summarized like what a partner's value is as far as adding the validation, as far as like the solution for a particular customer, like the industry insights that they can offer. But is there any additional like advice, or what would you pass along to partners and I guess to other sellers that are working alongside partners?
For the partner side, I think one thing that could be really helpful is to know your stories. Know the stories of your customers, know the stories of your wins, know the stories of even the losses. But when you know those stories, that helps to make our technology a little bit more personal to the person on the other end. And so I feel like when partners come in with the stories of how they helped a customer go from implementing XYZ tool to achieving XYZ ROI, that's a lot more impactful than just saying, yeah, we can make that happen. And so I feel like when customers come on in with those viewpoints, it makes a world of difference. And then from there, whether you remix that, whether you content remix that into some new content, maybe a blog, maybe a one pager, I think it just helps on out the overall approach of getting in front of the right people at the right time there.
Yeah. Awesome. I appreciate that. So I have 3 final questions. Is there anything in hindsight that you would have done differently?
That's a really good question because I've been thinking about that all of January. I think one of the things that I would have done maybe earlier on is the moment that we start talking about timelines, and the moment that I hear of anything about this is going to be probably an XYZ timeline or this might close in December, I'm going to assume that it's probably going to close a little bit later than what they've said. And so that way, if we start to put that date there, obviously it gives us some time to work back, but we can also give us some room to be able to overcome any challenges. It gives us time to be able to work through any other internal buying teams. But I felt like that was something that I would probably go back at and just say, okay, if this is the timeline, what needs to happen then? And what do we expect might stop us? Because maybe the CEO conversation could have happened a little bit earlier. Maybe it might not have, but that's one way that I might have been able to get this in a little bit earlier, or at least make it go a little bit smoother at the end there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think building a timeline in the sales process for the sales process, right? If you're familiar with Medic, is, can be part of the entire process, and just keeping it in front of the customer saying, here are the deadlines, here's what the timeline needs to look like in order for us to make this successful and hit any proposed timelines they may have for the project itself. So I think that's a really good point, but there's always some sort of fork in the road or something that comes up that's, unexpected, but it can really help because then you bring it up to the client, say, hey, Mr. Mrs. Client or prospect, we're behind schedule here, so this is how it might impact the project. And I think that'll segue all the way into, from the HubSpot side to the partner side, really go into the project, because the transparency that you have, they start to experience that in the sales process. Yeah. And I know myself, I've had that being a contributing factor to sales, where they're like, if this is what you do in the sales process, like working with your team must be amazing. And usually it is.